Welcome to Bookwrights House, where stories take flight and creativity finds its home. Today, we are excited to sit down with Prem Talreja, the imaginative author behind not just one, but two inspiring books, Lost and Found and Space Tourists. Good afternoon, Prem. I'm Elijah Barcelona, and on behalf of Bookwrights House, thank you for joining us. It's such a pleasure to have this opportunity to explore the heart behind your stories, your journey as a writer, and the messages you hope to share with readers of all ages. So let's dive in.
Thank you, Elijah.
Thank you. So let's begin with Lost and Found. So, a delightful tale of adventure and heart. What inspired you to write the story? Were there any personal experiences that helped shape its themes of kindness and exploration?
Yeah, well, thanks for asking. I became a book writer last year, and I started to think about what kind of books I will write. And you mentioned the other book, Space Tourism, Tourists, that we'll talk about possibly. But the Lost and Found idea came from me that now that I had found a voice as an author, I thought, why not write a book around children books and about character related things. So I have four grandchildren, okay? So, and this book is actually written not in a real time story about my grandkids, but it is mentions the two of my grandkids, Mila and Xander.
Mhm.
And so I made a story around character and their activities and what I like very much. So that's what made me write this book and dedicate it to them. But the underlying issue in my heart, or the goal is, and even future books I might write, would be to provide some character building, character strengths to the young readers going forward.
Okay. So the story emphasizes the power of kindness and teamwork. Why do you
Yes.
think those values are especially important in children's literature today?
Well, I mean, nobody can disagree with the fact that, children early on, if they can learn about kindness and honesty and teamwork, they're all very good qualities to have even as they grow up. So I see that in my grandchildren, and I see many kids genuinely are very uh, kind-hearted, but I think that over time they might change their views about kindness, and so it's just my thought. Yeah, I thought it would be nice to continue to emphasize that point uh, and use the storybook telling way uh, more than just sit a child on your lap and talk to them. It was my way of not only communicating to my two grandchildren, but two other grandchildren that I have, but in to the large world at large, that this is what we should be thinking about. Yeah.
Okay. So, like every writer faces roadblocks along the way. So, what
Mm.
challenges did you encounter while writing Lost and Found, and how did you navigate them?
Yeah. Well, once I thought I'm going to write a book around my two grandchildren, Mila and Xander, I began to think, what should I do to combine them in one story? And the challenge was to, formulate a story in my mind. It is not related to a particular incident, but I formulate a story, and I have some sense of their each individual characteristics. Xander loves trains, and Mila loves her brother, and she's a very kind-hearted person. So is Xander, but so I was trying to toss around how to combine that into something, and that's how it occurred to me that, oh my God, I could write it this way. And then once I started writing and put the pencil to the paper, the challenge as a novice writer, which I faced twice before, was quite hard. I mean, it's like, okay, now that you have an idea, what do you want to do? And the challenge I had was that I started this project last year around August or something, and Myla and Xander's birthdays were coming up in January and February. So I had this timeline challenge saying, get it done and make it available to their on their birthdays. So that was one timeline challenge. But it turned out to be quite good, and I have to admit that I used a little bit of technology to help me, like the chat GPT. but I didn't rely on it completely, but I did use it to help me speed things up, or so I would credit that technology as well. And I'm a technologist, so I really appreciate those kind of things.
Okay, that was heartwarming.
Yeah.
So, next question. Visuals bring stories to life, especially for young readers. How do you envision the illustrations enhancing the narrative? So, do you have a particular artistic style or illustrator in mind?
Not yet. I wish I had, and I probably will. But in the speed of things and the time pressure that I was feeling at that time, I actually, more than anything else, uh, used AI to generate these drawings and the painting, the art. And the reason was that obviously I didn't want to include actual pictures of my children,
Mm-hmm.
grandchildren.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I wanted to make it a storybook style, and that worked out pretty well. And I was quite impressed uh, at the technology at the time, which is 6 months ago, which is even advanced now, even further, that it could do that quite quickly and make it possible. And then my publisher did a really fine job of taking that and enhancing the book cover and everything accordingly. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
I might find an illustrator in the future if this becomes a quote profession or a regular thing. It would be good, but so far, time and money are the issues.
Okay. That's totally understandable nowadays, but AI is broad.
Very helpful. Yeah.
Yeah, and it can give you lots of possibilities. So we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
Okay, so now shifting to your second book, Space Tourists. This one brings a more personal tone. Can you tell us how your childhood fascination with space evolved into the stories you share in this book?
Yeah, I have to say that before I wrote this book, I wrote another book called I Love My Space. And that was like a memoir of my answer to myself about how did I end up in the US from India. And of course, there are many good reasons why we all end up here. But in my personal journey, there was an aspect to it. So when that book got completed, I began to think that this could be a very nice children's book as well, in which I could remove some of the details that were related to my memoir, but also include the most prominent features of my reason for having written the first book and then what caused me to write Space Tourist. So the idea in this book is that yes, it is personalized from my journey from India to USA, and then fictionalized, not fictionalized, but then it has taken it to there is a fictional aspect to it, but my love for space, but that from that of a young person or a child, and then to encourage the next generation of adults, young adults, who are going to and bound to be impacted by space exploration, space activities. And so I thought it'd be nice to encourage them to be interested in space and space tourism. Tourist is the title comes from the fact that I have in there a one fictional chapter that relates to tourism into space, although that is also becoming a reality in many ways. But uh, this is the title of the book. Yeah.
Okay. So you've written this book for both kids and adults, which is a unique approach. What do you hope each group, young and old, takes away from reading Space Tourists?
Well, I think the rightfully said it is for young adults in a way, the 10 to 20-year-olds perhaps, or 6 to 15-year-olds, as they get excited about space, as I did when I was 8 years old. But I think for the adults it is perhaps more like, okay, this is something our kids should read. It's interesting read. It's encouraging read. It talks also about preserving our Earth and taking care of going out of space and looking back at Earth feels like, would feel like. And then it is just a message that, you know, you can say there's an element of STEM in it: science, technology, engineering, and math, you know, concept in it too. That, you know, science and technology interests will lead you to more and more adventurous professions, careers, things like that.
So, back to your characters for a moment, particularly in Space Tourist. Are there direct reflections of your journey or drawn from people you've known along the way?
Well, the book has mentioned a few characters. One is Prem, myself,
Mhm.
uh, and the other character. So it starts out with Prem was young, 7, 8 years old, and that's a story, a chapter. The book has mention of how USA got into the space exploration era of the 70s, or 60s rather, and how the US and Soviet Union, now Russia, were rivals and competitors or even collaborators in space exploration. So there I mentioned some of the astronauts that were the pioneers of that. I even mentioned Laika, the dog, that was the first living being that went into space. So those are characters that are real. Then I briefly mention, the my four grandchildren, but that's just like, okay, uh, I was heading somewhere and was encouraged by them. But then I mention Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin, the two pioneers who ultimately landed on the moon. And that comes in a fictional part of my book. Yeah, so those are all real characters in that regard.
Okay. So, you've mentioned that lullabies played a role in your early love of space.
Yeah.
Yes. So that's such a beautiful image. Can you share more about how those early moments help shape your imagination and drive to explore?
Yeah, that's a great way to answer a question to ask, because that is my underpinning, which is I grew up in a nice, wonderful family in India, and I had, a loving family, and my mother and grandmother lived in our home. My grandmother lived with us, so I had a lot of affection and love and hugging, and I was the youngest of five kids, so I was really, uh, uh, given a lot of affection. So yeah, so when I was young, it was common in India, at least in my home, to sing lullabies in Indian language that were, related to mythology, spirituality, and imagination. So my mother especially used to sing me lullabies like that about the moon. And in India, in the moon has some significance, even reverential significance in terms of the planet and its image of in spirituality as well. So it would be lullabies like that, and then that was it. And then at some point, you know, I was 7 years old, and I heard that United States is going to put humans on the moon. At that time, they called it man on the moon, and I was like shocked. I go, my God, that moon that I hear lullabies about, I imagine about that shiny object out there, and now my mother tells stories about it, and now somebody's going to walk on it or go there. That was a transition in my mind, saying, really, how is that going to happen? Oh yeah,
Yeah, so it's all like,
because it was mostly a distant object uh, that you couldn't hold and could only see, and now suddenly it looked like, wow, there'll be people on there. And then the imagination went wild, saying, what would it feel like if you were there? If I was there, what would it feel like? Even feeling like, what would Earth look like from there? Which all of those questions were answered in the subsequent 8, 10 years of Apollo program, right?
mhm,
Yeah. So yeah.
leaving it all to our imagination and
Yep. Yep. Yeah. But credit is that there were some stories or lullabies that were sung to me, and that caused me to think about that moon. It could have been poems, could have been stories, lullabies, songs, romantic songs. Moon has a lot of connotation of romantic songs, but that stayed with me. Yeah.
Okay. So, across both books, your work clearly aims to connect with young minds, whether through adventure or inspiration. So, how do you hope readers connect emotionally with Myla and Xander or with the stories in Space Tourists?
Well, I don't know if all the readers would know this is Myla and Xander are my grandchildren, although I think it's not very difficult to figure that out because I also thank them in the beginning of the book. But that said, uh, yeah, I just want kids to see the relationship between a brother and a sister, which is very common, and a relationship between playfulness, a relationship about discovery, relationship about uh, possessiveness, and also about finding the right owner for that toy that was lost. Even though you would like to keep the toy, and we've all faced that, we find something and we want to keep it, but here's Myla telling her younger brother saying, but Xander, think about it. Wouldn't the person who lost it, wouldn't it be how cool and good it would be to them if they found the toy that was lost and you found it? And Xander is like 4 year old saying, yeah, I can understand. So the sense of compassion or willingness to part with something that you wanted and you found, and then the discovery of the person who lost it. So all of these things are, how I want people to relate. It's not about there are many Mylas and there are many Xanders, you know, but I just think that I did it around the two kids I knew. Yeah.
Okay.
And
So,
the space tourists, yeah, I think it's the same idea there. I think that uh, I think there are a lot of Prems out there who might be looking at space as the future, as it did for me. I became a technologist because of my love for space. I came to America because of my love for space. It's not like I went and became an astronaut or I worked in space industry, but my love for technology really grew from the age of 7 to graduating from high school and going to engineering college. So I think there are a lot of examples in that, and whether that example is of a kid in America, my own grandchildren, others who could be inspired, or parents could say, look, if he could do it, you can do it, you're in America. So that's my feeling, is that you write these books to put it out there, but I think most authors say that, you know, especially in this kind of categories, you're not trying to message anything special. You're just trying to put it out there. That's my feeling, at least. It'll be up to the recipients of the book and how they comment on it and how they read it. And I've had some good feedback, so time will tell.
so do you have any other projects, maybe a prequel or a sequel or another exploration into space or storytelling?
Yes, I do. First, I will tell you the prequel, which was the book I wrote before these two. And can you see it?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
So
clearly.
the book is titled "I Love MySpace," and the "my" is in parentheses. And the reason I did this was it's my own memoir, if you will, a category memoir on how I ended up coming from India, growing up in India, and how I got enthusiastic about technology. Because at the time when I graduated from high school, before Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin landed on the moon, I really already was leaning towards technology, but I wanted to be an architect. Okay. And so when they landed on the moon and this vision of landing man on the moon happened, then it completely changed the direction of my career, trajectory of my career. I told my parents that I want to be an engineer. And then I went on to become an engineer. And lo and behold, next thing was I was in USA. going to grad school and so on and so forth. So I got immersed in technology because of that transition. But then, as it would be because of my affinity to space, I would keep finding reasons to see space related things. So that's how this love of space. And then I put my in parentheses because as I've gotten older, the outer space has also become this inner space, okay, the my space. And so I found some connections in my mind that, yeah, there is some mystical spirituality, some philosophy that makes us so interested in outer space and inner space. So that's that book, and I urge people to read that as well if they can. But my fourth project that is happening is upon writing this Lost and Found for my two grandkids, Mila and Xander. I'm now in the process of writing a book for my other two grandkids who are twins, and their birthdays are coming up in July. So I'm formulating the story. I've actually written the story. I have to do some proofreading and fine tuning, but my objective is to write that. Again, it's a character building story around two sisters doing something around that.
Okay, so whether it's kindness on Earth or curiosity among the stars, what message or takeaway do you hope readers carry with them after reading your books?
Wow, that's very heavy. But I think that I hope they enjoy reading it, get a laugh out of it. I hope that they can talk about it after they read it. Maybe there's something in there that resonates with them in terms of a message, which most books have some one-liners or here or there that come across to you. But I think at the end, I'm just trying to convey that in this very times, not I don't mean current times, but in these times, it's very easy to get lost in the details of the of life and all that. But we should not rule out the fact that uh, Earth's a beautiful place. It's our home. We should be protective of it, careful of it. We should think hard about what we are doing to the earth and what we can do to save it. It's not just regarding space, and that as a society, also there is a subtle message saying, work together, and that may be a little, message that comes from maybe a grandfatherly view of the world in my mind, that what's happening, there's a lot of things that are happening that are not necessary, and kids, adults should really think of life from a holistic view, that there's a lot of good here, a lot of good happening. So don't get caught up in the bad stuff, okay? And historically, I mean, our ancestors, our parents dealt with so many challenges that they didn't know what were coming ahead of them. So we'll also deal with the challenges. But, uh, you know, it's all about positivity. Don't be negative.
Truly, positivity can bring you anywhere as long
Yeah.
as you look forward to what's ahead,
Yeah.
what lies
Yeah.
ahead.
Right. So my books are not going to be about stories that are sad or I mean that's outside my character. Okay, I dwell in a world of quite happy and contentment. So my books are going to be like that, and I say in plural as if I'm going to be an author. I don't know, but I do feel that I found a hobby that is, just me and a paper and pencil, or me and a computer and a keyboard. And it doesn't matter how long I take to do it, but it is an interesting hobby. I mean, I wanted to learn how to play guitar. Okay? I couldn't do it,
Mhm.
you know. So now this is an interesting hobby that I can, and I'm a storyteller at heart. Okay. So my kids know that I can whip out a story in a second. Once upon a time there was an elephant and this, that. I can tell stories. So if I can whip out those stories, I know that I can convey stories. Factual, imaginary, whatever. It's kind of fun. Yeah.
Yes, so you'll continue to spread positivity, and I know that in the future you'll do greater things.
Yeah, well, I hope so. But at least I will. I will continue to do that. Yeah. That's my legacy. Yeah.
It's very nice.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank
Okay, so finally, can you show us your books, the physical copies of your books, and can you invite our viewers to read your books?
Yeah.
Oh,
Well, these are the three books. Space Tourism is a larger book, hardcover, and
mhm.
it's a beautiful glossy cover and available on Amazon and BookBaby. Uh, I Love My Space is also available. All three of them are available on Amazon. And Lost and Found is a children's book style. I hope to see it in libraries and people's bookshelves or gifts that you can give to each other. But they're available on Amazon, and more than the sale part. And I want to say this also, that any revenue that I make from these books actually gets accumulated and goes to a donation for STEM studies. Okay, so you are contributing in some ways to STEM study and those kind of things. But please, read, comment, borrow from each other, lend to each other. But please read and comment about these books because as authors, as we all know, that moves the world. And we feel good when we get feedback. Sometimes bad also is good. Write to me, and let me know I did something wrong. It'll only improve my work in the future. Yeah. Thank you. I really appreciate that.
So that wraps up our inspiring conversation today. Prem, thank you for sharing your creativity, experiences, and thoughtful reflections with us. Your books are more than just stories, they're invitations to imagine, explore, and connect. And to our audience, thank you for joining us at Bookwrights House. So whether you're getting lost in an adventure with Myla and Xander or dreaming among the stars in Space Tourists, we hope you keep reading, keep dreaming, and always make space for meaningful stories. Until next time.
Thank you, Elijah. Really appreciate it.